Everything starts moving into place. Andor, penultimate episode of the first season. And I would say this is the first episode, honestly, that felt like it was about moving pieces into place for the next episode more than actually doing anything significant in its own right. There isn't really too much that happens here that isn't kind of like, yeah, that's kind of what had to happen based off of what was going on in the previous episode. That's not to say that makes it bad. It all tracks well. It makes sense. It is moving to whatever's going to happen in the finale, but it doesn't feel like significantly more than that. Now, normally I'd probably complain about that a little bit more. I mean, sometimes moving the pieces around episodes are just necessary, and that appears to have been the case here. I'm generally more forgiving about these kinds of episodes when they come immediately before a finale, because this is not uncommon that to have the blowout finale of whatever you're doing, not necessarily a big action finale, but to do the finale moments that you want, things need to be in certain places, in certain positions. Characters need to be in a certain state, in certain locations, and going after certain things at a certain time to have it all land when you want it. And sometimes you need an episode that is basically just doing that in order to make sure everything goes into place. Is it elegant storytelling? Not particularly, but sometimes it's necessary. And I'd say this is the first time that the show at all has felt just kind of like it was getting things set up for later. And so I don't consider that to be any kind of a bad sign. I mean, if you were to try and pin me down on it, yeah, I might call this the weakest episode of the show, but that's not because it's bad. That's by default, because the show has been really, really, really great. And there's still some great moments in here. I like that they kind of funnel the grief and the loss of Andor's mother through the droid. We get a lot more focus on the droid. Andor himself only just finds out towards the tail end of the episode. That was well done. Mon Mothma, and with her and her sister, who we know is very active in the growing rebellion, and Mon Mothma shares with her just how bad it is, and you can tell from that interaction. This is the first time that Mon Mothma has said out loud how bad things are, how much trouble she's in, how out of options she is. And you see that pain when she looks at her daughter, knowing that her child is about to become a bargaining, or honestly already is a bargaining chip. Whether she goes through with this or not, with this criminal guy who basically just wants to hook up his kid with an arranged cushy marriage, whether that ever happens or not, the nature of the situation, the fact that Mon Mothma even sat down with that guy last episode, means her daughter has already been turned into a bargaining chip in all of this. Whether that chip gets cashed in or not, that's what's happened to her family. And you can see that weighing on her. It's very well done in the performance. A lot of it just in the face and little things about the delivery of the lines. You can tell. You can tell how much she is struggling just at every moment. And then we have Stellan Skarsgård's character, whose name I keep forgetting, who also had to basically say something that he knew but maybe didn't want to have to think about too much out loud, or at least say it out loud again, this time to Saw Gerrera, and be very upfront with the fact that he was going to sacrifice a human being and multiple human beings in the name of holding on to an asset he felt was more important. And I like the build of that scene. I like the build that you can tell he's having this little panic moment when Saw says, "Oh, I'm on board. I'm totally going to do this for you now. I said I might not, but no, I'm going to do it." And he realizes, I can't lose you too. You go off and join this guy to the ambush he's heading into and doesn't know. I can't afford to lose all that. And he tries to find another way around it. Says, there's not enough time. There's this, there's that. Please don't. Okay, look, he's going to die. That's what's happening. And he has to be upfront about it. And I like that Saw Gerrera is still being played very much as an asset, but a wild card. That, like, he matters. He could be a very, very good ally, but you can't be certain what he's going to do. And so Stellan Skarsgård's character has to roll the dice because it will cost too much. And this, you can tell that he is really not okay with this situation. He had already said it out loud. We're going to sacrifice these guys, but he didn't have to say it to somebody who he was trying to entice to his side. He said it to somebody who was already in. And to have to say that to an ally, potential ally, and hope that they don't suddenly abandon you, you can tell it hit him a little bit harder to have to own up to what it was that he had set up and what it was he was doing. And Forrest Whitaker does a really good job at emphasizing the fact that Saw has, for the moment, sided with that decision. He's not okay with it either. This is really getting at the heart of making choices that are not choices anyone should have to make. And even though we even hear someone say the line, a greater good, I like that it's Saw Gerrera and that there is tension and disgust in his voice when he says the words, for the greater good. He's not using that as a rationalization to not think about it. He does understand that that's the reason that this has to happen anyway, but he's not using that to absolve himself or anyone else who knows of this decision from what it is that they are doing. And that's what I really, really appreciate about this show overall, as it shows the uglier side of rebellion, the uglier side of fighting fascism, the uglier side of trying to take down a totalitarian government. That doing these things, while these characters certainly, and maybe even the audience, can make the argument these are necessary, it never makes them okay. These things are always messed up. They are always bad things that should not happen, and it should weigh on these characters every time they make these decisions. Because it's wrong. It's fundamentally wrong what they are doing. But they still believe that they have to. And that's how bad things have gotten. It matters so much that for the greater good or for the cause is not wielded as a blanket excuse, but as the reason why it has to happen anyway. It does not absolve them, but it does motivate them. That's just really good. It's just really well done because it is so easy for shows trying to do morally compromised characters to only have the weight of the things they do weigh on them sometimes when it feels dramatically appropriate. But otherwise, it's like, just remember it's for the greater good and we move forward. These characters are not being let off the hook. None of them are. And that's great. And we've got all the other things moving. We've got Cassian and the other guy who got out from the prison with him. Cassian's now presumably going to go to the funeral of his mother. We've got the little weasel turd, I still don't remember his name, who now knows that's where Andor is going to go. He's clearly going to go. He has a vendetta. We'll see if that pans out for him. I'm going to suspect not, but who knows? Who knows? Everything is coming to a head, and that's what we're going to be getting next time. And I am quite excited for that. So even as moving everybody into position for the finale, it still did a good job of maintaining its themes, its strengths, its viewpoint, and the weight and the burden on these characters. That has not been let up because, well, we just got to get everybody in place. Don't do the thematic stuff right now. No. Thematic stuff's still there. It's still there. It's a lot of reiterations of stuff that has already happened. As I said, the stuff with Mon Mothma is an extension of the conversation she had last episode with the criminal guy. What goes on with Stellan Skarsgård's character is kind of a reiteration of a conversation he had last episode. So a lot of this isn't really new, but these are things that should never be forgotten, that should be reminded for these characters and for the audience, even in an episode that is really only there to get everybody in position for the finale. Andor, penultimate episode of the first season. What'd you think about it? Whatever your thoughts are, drop something down in the comments. Let's talk about it. Patreon's what pays the bills around here and enables me to do this as my living. You'll also find a link down in the description. Any amount that you can support me is immensely helpful. It enables me to do this as my living, even if you can't. The entire like, share, subscribe thing also helps me as well. Don't worry too much about it, though. We take a relaxed attitude around here, so you can just come on back next time you need a break. End credits, that means I need to shout out my top Patreon supporters. Robin Moore, Zupin Lutfula, Tarak, the thing that goes doink in the anime, Oliver B., Linda Walters, Emu Delkey, Leotha Boyd, Toy Loli, Becky Sparks, Renabi Likes the Poodle, Zach, Tracy Scrabbit, Angry Casperl, Adam RDL Taylor, Shay Lagourlay, Brendan LaRose, and TT. Thank you so much for your support. You can get your name in the credits too by checking out the rewards on the Patreon. You only tried to eat my earring once this time. That's much better.